Now, guys, let's just come right out with it and let you guys know where we are from an intel point of view. All right, because I know everybody is kind of hanging on, knowing that we're very, very close, but we're not quite there yet. Well, I'm going to tell you where we are and how close I believe we are, to the blessing that we're about to receive. All right, let's go over and, like we usually do, kind of go into where we are from Iraq. Iraq seems to be always a situation where we go to and we evaluate all of the GCR, meaning the whole global currency reset, in light of one country and what are they doing. Even though we're talking about, you know, 203, whatever it is, 209 countries, all making those changes, making their currencies and all that available for changes, for the newness of the GCR. But with Iraq, you have a situation where they sort of were under a timeline to perform with putting out their new rate. And they had done everything that we could think of, even putting out their new addendum to their budget, their so-called added portion to their 2018, 2019, and 2020 budgets. And that took place, that was passed, and that was about to be put into the physical gazette, but it was put out online to where some people could actually see it. Maybe even see it earlier than they were supposed to. But that what turned out to be really, really cool because Iraq did make changes into their rates. Now, since that time of a few days ago, we have noticed several people that I've talked to have seen on bank screens in this country the Iraqi dinar at much, much newer, higher rates than they were in the country of Iraq. The in-country rate in Iraq was very, very good, very good. And you guys remember back in 2012 when Dr. Shabibi came to the United States and he spoke at the U.S. Department of Commerce meeting in Washington, D.C., and back in the day, we had someone there from the community, if you will, ask him very pointed questions about the dinar. And Dr. Shabibi answered that he felt the dinar had the capability of showing a value of up to $16. Well, I remember it because I heard it. I heard the replay of it back then, and I thought, wow, that's one heck of a rate, for that currency. Well, I can tell you that we're not quite all the way there to 16, but we're well on the way there. Now, will they get to 16 right away? I don't know that. I don't know. But I know this much, they're well over 11 right now. So that's what I'll say as far as that goes. And we have that from several sources. So the other thing is this. That's going to be an extremely good screen rate, by the way, an actual bank rate of that. The other thing is, when it comes to Iraq, what I think is really significant is they have some new airports, going in, and there are some new bank branches for the Rashid Bank, which we understand are going into or are already in the Baghdad main international airport, the military airport, which is like 15 or 20 minutes away. It may actually share runways. A lot of times that's what happens. But the actual terminal buildings and so on of the airport are distant enough to where there's a little separation in mileage. I just wonder if that might not be the case in Baghdad. They may be completely different. I don't know. Then we have an airport in Sulamaya, and we've got one in what's the last one? I can't think of the last one. There's another fourth airport, and each of these has a Rashid Bank in them, and I'm sure there are more Rashid Banks, okay? But we're talking specifically in the airports right now, okay? And we understand that tomorrow, when the start of business opens, that they will be able to exchange dollars for dinar and dinar for dollars starting tomorrow morning in Iraq. Now, and this would be at a high rate. This would be at the rate that I was referring to. What's cool about that is that for that to happen, our new dollar, which is the USN, is gold backed now, and that would be the case, because there's no more old fiat dollars currently taken or recognized in Iraq. So it's only the USN, the new money, and the new gold-backed digital money that is exchangeable with the dinar in Iraq. So that's a pretty good indicator of how far we are from this happening for us. That's a pretty good indicator right there. I felt that to be amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit about these smart cards. You know, we've had these key cards, spelled QI, key cards, in Iraq for years now. And they've had varying rates on them depending on the part of the region of the country, depending on the type of payment, whether it was going to contractors, whether it was going to retirees, whether it was going to military, whether it was going to government. You know, there were quite a few different rates for quite a while out there in the country of Iraq. Now we understand that the newest, latest cards are out to all Iraqi citizens, and some citizens that actually are outside the country have these cards, and they could be dual citizens. They could be Iraqi and American, and they could have these cards. Or they could be in other parts of the world, and they have these cards. They had to activate these by last Saturday night. And they did. And but now we're hearing that these cards will be active, and monies on those cards will be available around noon tomorrow. Eastern time, by the way. East Coast time, around noon. Now that's pretty significant too, because that new card is what the Iraqi government is putting the profits and distributing the profits from the oil and gas exploration and proceeds onto those cards that they're sharing throughout the Iraqi citizenry, much like in Alaska. Our Alaskan citizens get a share of oil and gas revenues that are found in Alaska. Okay, so don't everybody just up and try to move from Florida to Alaska. But you know, this is what is happening, and this is what happens in Kuwait and in Saudi and a lot of those countries over there where they have such huge oil revenues. A lot of their people just don't work. They just sit and they collect these revenues, and then they are able to do whatever they want to do. Now, this access to those proceeds really start tomorrow. And by the way, that would be at the new rate of the dinar. So there's another cool indicator for us, which is really good. All right, let's come from Iraq. Let's come back over, and let's see what's going on in our own country. Out west, we know that paymasters have received the certificate of authority to disperse funds, and that has happened a few days ago. So they're all just sort of ready to start. anytime now. I think that it's sort of part of the shotgun start that I talked about on Tuesday night. So everything's good there. We have we have some discussion about the timing, obviously, of the release of the 800 numbers. We've heard over the last couple of days that they could come anytime, but we really believe that we're supposed to have our start. I'm just going to say by the end of the week, whether that you consider the end of the week Friday or Saturday. To me, the weekend is usually Saturday and Sunday, so I think that's still a very good possibility for us to have an awesome end of the week and a great weekend. Uh, so that's sort of where we are as far as that goes. Other things that we're seeing on our bank screens are all the rates solid, front and back screens, basically ready to start. Basically ready. I will say this. Let's talk about redemption centers. All redemption centers are on red hot alert and ready to go. The Tier 1 and Tier 2 banks are fully staffed and ready. Tier 3 banks are pulling up the rear and are not that far along with staffing, but I believe they'll get further along as they need to. And I would say, to be perfectly honest, as much as we like our regional Tier 3 banks and some of the even smaller community banks in Tier 4, and we like those because we like the hometown banks and the small banks too. Sometimes we have relationships there that are more meaningful than the larger banks. I know that. I know that about credit unions for a lot of people too. But what about the Tier 3s is they're really not going to be that significant in the big picture because really, if you think about it, guys, we know that even though we're talking basically about 5 or 6 currencies that most of us are aware of, there are other currencies too that have come along that are going to be part of this GCR that we haven't really talked about. They haven't been on the forefront. They're out there. For example, what about the country of Zambia? We had to wait on Zambia a few days to get their currency ready to go on the forex because they have a new kwacha, I think is how you pronounce it, kwacha, replacing their old currency. And that's a country we've heard of. Obviously, we've heard of Zambia. Some of you folks have been there or have missionaries there or have done work there. But it doesn't make the front page all the time for us. So we kind of set it aside. But that was important for Zambia to come on board with a new currency. And they have done that. They're all set. So that's a very positive thing for us. But that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Little tiny things that need to happen, that need to take place. What's cool about having all the redemption centers and the Tier 1s and the Tier 2s banks ready to go is that we have the majority, well, all of the ZIM that will be redeemed. And we use the term redeemed on ZIM, and we use the term redemption center because we're redeeming a gold-backed bond if you have ZIM. And we use exchange locations for the term for exchanging dinar, dong, rupiah, Afghani, rial, which, by the way, it's right on up there too. Right on up there. Mm-hmm. But we use those and we talk about those because the ZIM is the one that really, obviously, because of the size of the denominations, has such great value, huge value. Okay? And so that's the big one. That's the one that really, really makes a difference, not only in our lives and in the lives of those that we're going to bless through our humanitarian projects, but also for the banks. The banks will benefit, obviously, because the accounts will be larger. They'll have more on deposit. And by the way, let's talk a little bit about the banks. You realize that with a gold-backed dollar back on the gold standard, like we used to be before we came off of it in 1913 with the Federal Reserve. But by going back on the gold standard, what it allows us to do is to go from Basel IV compliance, that's right, Basel IV, where we are now in the U.S. and all banks, to Basel V. You say, well, what's the big deal? What's the difference in going from Basel III to 4 to 5? And why does it make a difference to me? And why do you say Basel when other people say Basel? Because they've never been to Basel, Switzerland, and they don't know how to pronounce it like they do in German. Basel. Yeah, Basel. Okay, so here's the deal, and that's why it's called Basel III. We've been on Basel III. We made that last Wednesday, which was what? Was that a week ago from yesterday or yesterday? Time flies when you're having fun. I believe it was last Wednesday, not yesterday. We made it all the way to Basel IV. We were Basel IV compliant. And with the gold-backed currency in the United States, we get to Basel V. All of our accounts should be Basel V compliant by Monday. Now, you say, what does it mean to me? Under Basel III, we were 50% insured under Basel III. Under Basel IV, our deposits are 75% insured. But guess what, guys? You're already ahead of me, aren't you? Under Basel V, we are 100% insured. Boom. There you have it. That's what is significant about that to us. And it's because of the gold backing and the way it's all orchestrated that gives it such great value. So, redemption centers, Tier 1 and Tier 2 banks, ready to go. Tier 3s, a little slow in the uptake, but they'll get there. Not a big deal. Doesn't have to be 100% before we go. And then, obviously, like I said, it's cool that our funds will be 100% insured under Basel V. All right, so I would say banks are ready. I would say redemption centers are ready. I would say whoever's going to release the 800 numbers to moi and possibly one other individual, as I understand it, to allow us, and this is an honor, and I do receive it as a full honor, to be able to release it to the community as we are indicated, as I am instructed to do so. I will do it, and I look forward to that. I think anybody that is sitting on any of the number ready to go out is just plain ready to pull the trigger, just ready to go. Now, the trigger call, my understanding, will come from our Treasury. I think all of the indications are that everybody globally is ready to go. China said, yep, we're ready to go. You have the authority to do that. We understand that authority was given. And all the tranches have been put in place to have funding, not only for humanitarians and all of the various core groups and so on, and all of the subgroups and our large internet group of about 5+ million people. But I think all the funds are in place. Now all the funds are not only in place, but they're gold backed. And so that makes it just about go time. We know what's going on in Iraq. We know what the rates are. We know that they're ready to go tomorrow morning, at least in those airport bank locations. And we know the Iraqi citizenry is about to receive a portion of their oil and gas revenue sharing, let's call it, tomorrow afternoon Eastern time. I just think we're really at a good place, you guys. I really do. I don't see how it can go much longer. I'm just going to say it that way. All right? Now, is there anything else? Is there any more intel? If there is, I don't know what it is. I can't think of it. I really can't. What I'll do, as I mentioned, we're going to hopefully, Lord willing, this is our last call. I keep saying that, but I hope it is. I really do. I hope this is our last call for at least a month while we work on new website, new capability for calls and so on, like I've mentioned in the past. And I just want everybody to stay tuned. Go to the bigcall.net website for the numbers. I'll also be putting them out to a few other sites that you'll probably know. If provided I'm allowed to do that, I'm going to do that. And you guys will just get the number, set your appointment, and then just have a really wonderful experience with the whole redemption and exchange process. It's really going to be, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. Remember, if you have any humanitarian projects you want to do, gives you the opportunity to ask for a higher rate or a privately negotiable rate on Zim, on dinar, on dong, and on rial. And just be aware of that. So do that, and feel free to pursue that and do that. So I just want you guys to be aware that we are doing projects like Rebuild America, like we're working with our veterans under the Veterans Retreat Network. We're still doing a pastoral retreat network. We're doing ministry together. We're doing community gardens. We're doing a lot of things with water and energy. And I know we're going to be working very well to bring anything that will help us for health and healing and well-being forward. There's quite a bit that we'll be involved with. Sue is very excited about what she's going to be doing in the brain science area and in health.